In my last episode, I installed a new exhaust on my Miata, but after doing so, my car started making this horrendous sound. So in this episode, I'm gonna try and fix whatever the hell that is. Okay, so yesterday was a bit funny. Got the exhaust on pretty fast, but I don't know what I did, but there's like this horrifying screeching rattle from the back. You know how there's that phrase, don't fix what's not broke? Yeah, I'm feeling it. The funniest part is I have plans to hang out with one of my close friends today, and I thought last night, hey, it'd be kind of cool if I also had the exhaust on it. So now I can't really even show the car because it has a horrifying sound. I'm gonna see her in like 5-6 hours, so I really want to get this fixed as soon as possible. So since the sound is so proportional to the spinning of the wheels, I'm pretty confident that I must have bent one of the rear dust shields to the point where it's touching the rotor as it spins, which is one of the issues that this car originally had when I got it. So I'm gonna try and bend all of them back and see if that does it. So let's see, I just bent the rears back. I'm gonna see if that makes a difference here. And for a second there, I thought I actually fixed it. Oh no, it's still there. At this point, I was beyond confused. I couldn't really comprehend how installing a new muffler would cause this weird rattle when the car was driven. This is so annoying. So I went on a drive to see if I could get a better understanding of what seems to cause the sound, and if there's instances where the sound is pretty much gone. That was pretty good. And I couldn't help revving my new exhaust as well. So I don't really know what I'm doing. All I know is that the sound didn't exist, and then I installed a new muffler on it, and then the sound started existing. So naturally, I did what any professional would think to do in this situation, and that's poke your new exhaust with a stick. My idea here was I was trying to figure out what could be causing that sound, so I was just hitting on different components in that area to see if I could reproduce that sound to help isolate where it's coming from. But I had no luck at all. None of the sounds that I was getting were the ones that I'd been hearing when I was driving. So, out of desperation, I decided to just call Flying Miata themselves to see if maybe they might be familiar with this.
We're currently experiencing with Flying Miata. How can I help you today?
Hey Nick, I have an interesting question.
There's a lot of different heat shielding all down the exhaust passage underneath the car there. So we need to take a closer look at it for you.
Sure thing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for calling.
Bye. Alright, time to put the car on jack stands. Alright, I haven't been under the car in probably a month or two now, but I just set it up. It's all jacked up, but it's jacked up pretty high because I need to be able to fit pretty comfortably under there. And so I put the old wheels underneath the frame rails on both sides, and because I'll be more closer to the back, I also connected the jack to the diff so that I have a triple redundancy for safety while I'm under it. So with the car jacked up, I started checking if maybe there was some heat shielding touching any components like the Flying Miata rep suggested, but I didn't find anything except for a separate issue. I wonder if the diff was touching. Oh, I see grease. That's just gorgeous. I think my CV joints might need to be changed. There was a lot of grease around that rubber cover. So that's another issue for another day that I'm going to look into, but I got back under the car searching maybe towards the middle of the car to see if there's anything I could spot. So I'm not seeing anything obvious. So I'm going to carefully run the car while I'm in it and turn the wheels and see if that makes a sound, because it looks like the mid pipe might be getting pulled a little closer to the diff, but there is room, but also the car is a little bit jacked up by the diff, so it's being pushed out of the way. So I want to see if it it makes a noise like this.
So my best theory was that maybe something was touching something around the diff, and since the diff was a little jacked up right now, I was wondering if maybe the sound would be a little different than when the car was actually sitting on its wheels. And sure enough, the sound was far less frequent this way, which was something interesting to think about.
It's almost gone when it's jacked up. So something about maybe how the suspension is compressing when it's actually under load, or maybe when I'm thinking about the diff, because when that's compressed under load, that sits in a slightly different spot. I'm very confused right now.
So yeah, I was really confused, but I felt like maybe I had a new data point, a new different type of behavior that would maybe help isolate what could be causing that issue. So I started looking more closer at the suspension components and geometry to see if maybe something changed because they're now drooped, and if when they're at full load they're actually contacting something a bit more. But I couldn't find anything. I even tried like shaking the exhaust around to see if maybe that would run into something, but there was nothing there. So I was pretty stumped. And then I had the idea to put my phone underneath the car and record while the car is running to see if maybe that would get me a different visual. And you can see, like, there's nothing obviously going on there, but yet the sound was there and it was very loud.
Aha! I think I found it.
And then I spotted something moving.
Wait a second.
I felt like I got it. So I rewatched it just to see if I'd imagined it. And sure enough, something was definitely moving when the car was running.
I think I found it. I'm looking at the video, and I might have actually got it in video. There's some sort of metal hanging tab or something that's kind of like hitting against a pipe, and it's very close or connected to it's very close to the drive shaft, so it's picking up the drive shaft vibrations. So I am highly because in the video you hear it when it runs, and you can kind of see it vibrating. But the interesting telltale sign is when I turn off the car, I get out and I slam the door. That slamming of the door also noticeably shook it, and it looks like that sound was correlated with that. So I'm gonna get a better look at this.
I was really excited. I'd spent the whole night actually thinking about this, and I couldn't figure out what it could be. But now it seems like I could actually spot some movement.
That's just a piece of,
and then I made a pretty disappointing
piece of tape
discovery.
Well, that can't be it then.
Yeah, it was tape.
They're all just pieces of electrical tape. This is the metal tab I thought I was looking at.
I was so confident that that must have been it. And at this point I was starting to get a bit frustrated, so I decided to just go with the brute force approach from here.
Okay, new plan of action. Just gonna keep putting the phone in different spaces underneath the car, drive it a little until I hear the sound, and then check the recording, and kind of just take multiple recordings from different locations and see if I see anything. I need to get eyes under the car.
I was pretty annoyed, and at this point I was really getting adamant that I needed to figure this out soon.
Okay, so I've watched enough video. I haven't found the sound, but the drive shaft spins at a much faster speed than the rear axle because the differential has a ratio on it, and that sound appears to be correlated with the spinning speed of the drive shaft, not the rear axle. So I think that eliminates, if that's true, that eliminates any sound coming from the rotation of the wheels or even like the axle. Something must be touching the drive shaft as it's spinning. And since I touched the exhaust last night, I am starting to really think it must be something to do with some part of the mid-pipe must have pushed something, or maybe the mid-pipe itself, or a part of it is touching the drive shaft. So I'm gonna look more into that. I might need to actually jack up the car a little higher to get a better look.
And it turns out I couldn't have been any more spot on.
Found it! Holy shit, I found it! Oh my god, I found it! What is it? The spring is kind of like shaking around. Oh my god, that's it. Dude, I'm taking a video to show you. This is it, because when I touch it,
That's the exact sound.
You hear that? Yeah. Imagine that hitting a drive shaft that's just like spinning. Oh my god. Yo!
This was incredibly rewarding. Not only could I finally take a proper test drive and hear my new exhaust, but I also finished this all in time to show my friend the car.
The idea is just bend it more like that. So this is, okay, so the mid-pipe definitely got moved a little, which is fine. This cable with this metal spring is attached to the mid-pipe. Is now touching the drive shaft. And maybe it has touched in the past because there's that kind of like rusted ring around it. Interesting, okay.
Not only was it rewarding to fix it, but also to realize that my guess was actually spot on.
All right, so as my roommate came out to kind of help me walk around the car and find the sound, I found it. I'm gonna give it a shot right now, run the car before I lower it. But yeah, this feels good. Yeah, problem solved. All right, okay, now I can finally take my test drive with the new exhaust. All right, time for the actual proper sound test. Whew. What a day.
And this here is my first time hearing the exhaust without that sound.
It's fixed.
It was such a big relief.
God, that's not even what this was supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about the exhaust. I like it. It is quite subtle. I kind of wish it was a little bit more. It's a really nice upgrade. It really is for people that like, they don't care for loud exhaust, they just want a better sounding exhaust. Oh yeah.
But Abhi, how can you make a video about your new exhaust and then record the drive with an iPhone? Well, aren't you in luck? Here's a proper drive with the exhaust mic'd up, and my thoughts after having it on my car for a whole month. Absolutely love this thing. I really wouldn't want it any louder, but I love the deep rumble that it adds. That's pretty fun to have. Yeah. So I've never driven a car with an aftermarket exhaust, and the last thing I wanted was a really loud fart cannon. So I took baby steps. So it's supposed to be a pretty quiet but subtle and mature exhaust that's a little bit louder than stock, and I love it. You generally people can't tell that it's an aftermarket exhaust when I drive by them, which is the exact goal. I just want to have fun for myself, and I don't want to annoy other people or even draw more attention. And this seems to be a perfect balance for what I want. So I'm pretty happy. So much better. There was nothing wrong with it before, but this adds another level of flair and connection that I'm able to have fun with. The more I rev it out, the more rewarding it is. And even the best part that I didn't really expect is that low revs, that little burble, that deep burble it adds is also pretty fun. I was thinking that it would just add some more fun at the top end. I didn't realize that it would make it more fun throughout the entire rev range. So I'm really happy with it. And of course, downshifts are even more fun, especially when you nail it. And another thing I didn't expect that I love is when I pop into neutral, it has this really cool like powering down like boom. The exhaust clip up. There's one of the few NBs in my neighborhood right here. So I hope that gives you a pretty good idea of how the exhaust sounds and why I like it so much. Even though that's kind of always a lost cause when you're trying to share how an exhaust sounds through a video. So here's a clean recording of a before and after comparison with the stock muffler and the Flying Miata muffler. And finally, here's how it sounds with the pull onto a highway with the exhaust mic'd up. This was easily some of the most rewarding work I've done this car yet. Before this, I'd never really experienced an aftermarket exhaust, and I kind of thought there wasn't really much to it, and I didn't understand why so many people would rave about the connection that it would give you. But this has kind of changed my mind, and this is also, like I said, baby steps. This is supposed to be a pretty subtle upgrade of a muffler. So I'm really happy I made this upgrade, and it's made a pretty dramatic difference to how much I've been enjoying this car. And speaking of really practical upgrades, next episode I'm going to install some LED headlights in the car and get some proper before and after shots with the same camera exposure settings so you can actually tell how much of a difference it made. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.